Hey, good morning, Jacques. How are you?
I'm doing outstanding. I'm talking to Garth Brooks.
Entering his second year as the LSU head football coach.
It was the only way I could get a foot in the door.
Joined by the icon, Kim Mulkey. Hey, Coach, great to see you.
Well, if you're an LSU football fan, you should certainly know who Gordy Rush is. He played for the Tigers in the late 80s, and he's been on the sideline for decades as part of their radio team. You've seen him on TV, inside LSU football, all that stuff. Gordy, great to see you, man.
Good to see you. How are you?
Good to see you. Yeah, I'm doing outstanding. Football season's underway, like they say. You wait for it forever, and then boom, before you know it, it's Thanksgiving, and the season's over shortly after that.
I mean, I look up, and this summer was so slow, and I had an enjoyable summer. Spent a lot of time with my kids, and it just time crawls. Yeah. And here we are, it's week 3. I mean, it's week 3, and you're like, before you know it, we'll be talking bowl games, and it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, LSU 2-0. That's where you want to be. Obviously, the huge season opener. They find a way to win that one. And then this past week, Louisiana Tech, they win. It was there have been many thrilling nights in Tiger Stadium. This was not one of them.
No.
You're kind of in a no-win situation. If you win 45-3, that's what you're supposed to do. And if you win 23-7 like LSU did, well, that was boring.
Right. And the good thing about that football game, I don't think anybody else in the country was watching. So everybody saw the Clemson game and didn't get a chance to see that. Look, I mean, this is still we're a day and age of this transfer portal, and you have so many people coming in, and you're trying to develop some chemistry with this football team. And offensively, there are a lot of new pieces, and they haven't been hitting on all cylinders yet. Certainly they did plenty enough to win and be the better team at Clemson. And there was some good stuff that they showed against Louisiana Tech, and there were some inconsistencies. And the good thing about it, when you play a game like that, you get the coach's attention this week in practice.
Yeah.
So I'm sure they've been on him pretty hard. And I think now also Joe Sloan has a chance with all these new receivers and all these new pieces to kind of hone down on what he wants to be offensively. You kind of put a lot out there, see what works well, who can do this, who can't do that, and then you start refining your offense as time goes on.
Yeah, well, I think that's been, if the word disappointing is appropriate, the disappointing thing is that I thought LSU's offense would – Clemson's got a great defense.
Yes.
So to win 17-10, great. But then I thought, well, against Louisiana Tech, they'll score some points, they'll open things up, and it's just disappointing to me, Gordy, when it's late in the game, you still got your first team offense in, your first and goal, and you're trying to pound it in, and you can't run it in. You're kicking an 18-yard field goal with like a minute left, and that's not really what you want to be doing there.
No, it's not ideal. Look, I went back and looked at the film. I think the biggest thing that jumped off the film was that LSU's inability to run the football when they had numbers. In other words, defense had 6 people in the box. LSU had 6 defenders. You should be able to run the football. Now, Louisiana Tech played an unconventional 3-man front, a 3-3. It's a nickel defense. All of the Mike Leach people kind of bring that with them. And what Louisiana Tech did really well, their front 6, a little undersized, very athletic, and they were able to really out-hustle and beat some offensive linemen to their blocks and stop LSU's running game with just 6 in the box. What that meant was when LSU threw the ball, a lot of times Garrett Nussmeier had 4 receivers out there in pattern, and Louisiana Tech dropped 8. And so Louisiana Tech did a nice job, I think. But the thing that jumped out at me, LSU has to run the football better. When you have numbers in the box, you have to run the football better.
Yeah, and if you're a Louisiana Tech fan watching this, they're probably saying, hey, give us some credit. And
yeah, oh yes.
Louisiana Tech, they've been to their share of bowl games. They've sent their share of people to the NFL. Your 2 top coordinators are at LSU, both coached there, right? And Blake Baker and Joe Sloan for a minute. So Louisiana Tech certainly has a strong program. And Louisiana guys playing LSU, they're going to be up. This is their Super Bowl. And, they played a good game.
Look, they played a good game. It's some of the spot. A lot of it has to do with the spot. That was an epic game to go up there and win at Clemson. And you hear how great you are, and you jump all the way to number 3. And you think you've got it figured out, and then you lose your center in Braylon Moore, right, that is out of it. And then offensively, you're just really inconsistent. There were some really good things that they did. They just weren't consistent enough. They weren't consistent in the red zone, have to settle for a couple field goals. And, yes, give Louisiana Tech some credit, because what's important is what do you learn from it, what do you clean up, and then how do you perform this week against Florida?
Yeah, and Garrett Nussmeier only has 2 touchdown passes through 2 games. I thought that would have been more. Certainly, when we went to fall camp, we saw all these wide receivers, and we talked about all these weapons. And it was funny. We were just like, well, if the defense can just kind of do their part, well, the defense has exceeded expectations in a big way.
I'm not surprised about the defense. I had a chance to see, a bunch of scrimmages and a lot of practices. And it was quality and quantity has been my theme in all my speeches. I mean, they've got quality frontline people that they didn't necessarily have, that they brought in through the transfer portal. And there's quantity. When you can go 3 deep on the defensive line the way they do, they're 2 and 3 deep in the secondary. Obviously, they went out and got some top-line kids. They've recruited well, and it's been a good mix of who returned and who you've brought in. And when you have those numbers and it fits what Blake Baker wants to do defensively, that has the makings of an excellent unit.
Yeah. We now have a free agency season, right? You play
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, you play your last game, whether it's a playoff game, a bowl game, and then it's like, who are we going to get?
Right.
Who are we going to lose? We've heard coaches say this isn't good for college football. I saw Lane Kiffin at, I guess, SEC Media Days a couple of years back say, well, we've got like 70 new guys on the team.
Yep.
I don't know if that's good for college football, but these are the rules of engagement. This is what we have to do.
Well, I don't think it's good for any sort of football. I mean, the NFL doesn't have that percentage of people that are new. And I think the hard thing is that how do you get these people play together and how do you get some consistency out there? Some continuity has been the big buzzword that I've used. Clemson and what Dabo Swinney's been able to do, he's held 90% of his roster together. And that's kind of why some of the success he's had. Instead of paying people externally, he's paid people internally, and he's kept them a part of that program. And it's interesting to see now this is supposed to be the payoff year for them. They're a very good team, and even though they haven't gotten off to a great start and didn't look great against Troy, I still think they're going to find themselves into the college football playoff. I think the challenge for LSU is a little bit what we saw against Louisiana Tech, right? This is a bunch of guys that are playing for the first time. Everybody was hyped to go play Clemson. How do you react against the Louisiana Tech game? And then different circumstances where it's an undersized team, they play a different defense, and how do you react to it? It just takes time. And that's for everybody. It's just not an LSU thing. I mean, Ole Miss is going through that. I think that's why you see, South Carolina put a lot of people into the NFL. They have a lot of new faces. And I think that's one of the, the harder things for these coaches is that you have to start over and teach the ABCs each and every year. Right? LSU next year, when you look at it, they're going to lose 12 to 15 people to the NFL draft. So you're going to have to start back, and this is how we do A, B, and C. And then, how do you deal with all these new people as you go through the ups and downs of what is college football?
Yeah. Well, winning ugly beats the alternative.
Yes.
Like Florida got beat at the gun by South Florida, who appears to be a pretty strong football team. A Florida guy, spits on a South Florida guy. How does this happen? I mean, a couple days after Jalen Carter on national TV,
it's unbelievable.
6 seconds into the game is ejected. I would have thought a coach, like somewhere during a meeting, say, "Hey, you see that guy with the Eagles? Don't do that."
Right. Let's just say, hey guys, look, we got 10 o'clock curfew tonight. Cafeteria opens at 6. You got to make sure that we got prayer service, and don't spit on the opposing guy. It's not a good thing. That'll get you 15 yards. I mean, you look at that Florida game, and those fans have a right to be furious. I mean, Florida settled for 3 field goals. They were had 11 penalties for 103 yards. The center snapped it over the punter's head, gave him a safety in that game. The one touchdown that South Florida had, 10 of the defenders were all staring at the sideline trying to get the play in. When the ball was snapped, they threw the ball to the wide receiver on the fade, and the cornerback and the safety collided midair, and the guy walked in for a touchdown. If I'm a Florida fan, I'm furious. And considering what murderer's row they've got coming up ahead of him schedule-wise, but that's life in the SEC. And I mean, to me, Jock, there's no great teams anymore. There's no 12-0, Nick Saban, and there's no more 3-9 Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
I mean, Vanderbilt's got $18 million. Vanderbilt's got dudes. It's going to be a tough spot for LSU to go play at 11 o'clock in October in between South Carolina and Texas A&M. And so that being said, who can get their people to play at a good level of consistency is more important than it ever was 10 years ago, because you have so much more parity in college football.
And it's becoming more like the NFL And when you played or into the 90s and beyond, I think fans would tolerate the Nichols games, the Southeastern games, which they're going to continue to play. But now fans, whether it's because there's the internet and social media and they can really speak out and be heard, they want to see NFL games every week. They don't want to see 40-point favorites and all that. Give me a competitive game like the NFL where usually the top point spread's like 10 points maybe.
And it was a strange week too. I mean, you saw a lot of blowouts, right?
It was not a great schedule.
Football. It really wasn't. And I think it's going to go, now that the SEC goes to 9 games, I think you're going to see more of that. Right, I don't want to play the good competitive. If I'm LSU, I don't want to play Clemson. Right, I mean, they've scheduled SMU, who's obviously a rising team, but I mean that's about the extent of what you want to do. I think Ole Miss has played a home and home with Pittsburgh. I mean, no more do you want marquee matchups, and I certainly don't want it week 1.
Yeah,
and I understand that's what TV's asking for. I don't want it week 1. I want to go play, a game. I want to go play a 1AA team. I want to go play a lower D1 team in which I can at least get all these new faces under some different environment that's not Frank Howard Field, right? Where you've got a do or die game out, right out the chute.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad they won the game because I was preparing to hear everyone say, "Why are we playing this difficult game week 1?" And we've lost all these season openers, and I've talked about it many times. But Verge scheduled this game, LSU scheduled this game 8 years ago.
It was 8 years ago. It's more than I thought it was a while back. You're probably right. It's 8 years ago. I always tell the story. I used to fly around, on the Tiger Tour, right? Mm-hmm. And I sat and heard Joe Oliva and Les Miles arguing one day about home and home with UCLA. And I just quietly sat in the front of the plane. I said, chances are that neither one of you guys may be here when that game happens. And actually, neither one were. I was at Ogeron, and obviously, Scott Woodward was AD. That's how far in advance those games are done. Now, the question is that now that the SEC is playing 9 games and you have some games that are scheduled, what are you trying to do with those 3 non-conference games now?
So who was arguing what? Like Les wanted to play it, and
Les thought UCLA. Those guys have athletes. Those guys have athletes. What are we doing?
It's too dangerous.
What are we doing?
Yeah. Well, and the complaint was 8 years ago, or a little bit past that. Hey, stop playing Oregon and Arlington.
Right.
Stop playing Wisconsin at Lambeau Field or Houston. Play that in Tiger Stadium.
Right. Well, back then the neutral site game was more lucrative because both teams got whatever $3 or $4 million to go play in Arlington. Whereas if LSU went to Wisconsin and played in Madison, right, you don't get the same cut. You're an opponent. They'll pay you and pay your costs, but the home team gets the benefits. So you made more money if you were LSU if you played 2 neutral site games, right, than if you played a home and home. Mm-hmm. Well, now the TV money has obviously changed and gone astronomical, and it's not quite as important to do that. And then, you hate taking away a home game out of your home stadium.
Well, last year they lost to USC in Vegas, but they got paid $5-6 million,
right,
and they don't have to park the cars or sell the concessions or pay for the security. I mean, you're like Beyonce or Taylor Swift. You show up, you play, and you leave.
Right.
It's everyone else's work to do.
Yeah, but the
issue, the hotels too.
The issue now. We look at next year's schedule, and let's see which is not out, right? Other than Clemson is coming here.
I think McNeese is on there, maybe.
Yeah, you get 9 SEC games. They haven't determined that they're permanent, so let's assume they stay the same. And LSU gets Alabama, Texas A&M, and Ole Miss, and then you have Clemson. And then you figure you're going to get all the people you haven't played the last 2 years. So let's stay with me. So we said Clemson, Alabama, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, Auburn, Kentucky. I'm just going down the line. I mean, it's a harder schedule next year than what you're looking at this year.
Right.
When you talk about who you're going to play, some of the teams that you switch off from, you lose Vanderbilt. You lose South Carolina. I'm sure Mississippi State. Mississippi State been great to play the last 2 years. They're better. They got $18 million. Jeff Levy's a good coach. 9 SEC games is brutal, and that's why I think those 3 games. Somebody that's a mid D1 is the top of who I'm going to play at one of those 3 games. Scheduling forward from there, right? And then after that, I'm playing 2 state schools because you got to get into the college football playoff. And as it stands now, you need to go 10-2, You have to go 10-2 to get in. 9-3, you need help, and so why would I risk a non-conference game?
Yeah, and I do like the new scheduling. On one end, I don't like it because I like going to Auburn, and they're not going to Auburn. See, you had Auburn and Mississippi State. I think, like you said, they've been pretty bad. But then you've missed Texas and Georgia, so it's kind of been a wash.
Right, you get Georgia. That was another one I forgot. So I mean, Texas, Georgia, that should come back on the schedule next year. Look, I like the idea that so every 4 years you're going to go to everybody in the SEC. Right. And, I mean, the $1 million question now is how do you resort the permanents? When they did it the first time, they kind of drew a halfway line and said these are A teams and these are B teams. And if you're an A team, then you're going to get 2A. And you're going to get 1B, and that's what happened. So LSU got Alabama A&M based off that record, and then Ole Miss was their B team. That's a pretty good B team that you've got to play, and a rival game as well. So it'll be interesting to see who are the permanents.
Well, and going to the different venues like Georgia. LSU hasn't been there since Zach Mettenberger lost that shootout to who's our guy, the quarterback on the other end. He's in broadcasting now. I think he's the leading passer in the history of the SEC, the quarterback at Georgia.
Yeah, Aaron Murray.
Yeah. He was the quarterback on.
That was a great game.
Yeah, 44-41.
How nice was South Carolina? I mean, we've been to South Carolina, I think, 3 times since they've been in the SEC. 2 or 3 times. I remember Shedrick Wilson once. I mean, I think 3 times. You've been to South Carolina. Tennessee's my favorite SEC road venue. What a wonderful place that is to play. You should play everywhere. Every 4 years, right?
Yeah. Tennessee's got the sailgating.
They got the sailgating, baby. Yeah. Calhoun's. It's a long walk from the Tennessee River up to Neyland Stadium. I mean, that's an incline and a half.
Quick history, 2017 when they played there, Danny Etling, quarterback, that was Ed Ogeron's first year as a head coach. All week they were counting down to this storm that was coming, and they were watching it. And it was this intense, brutal thing. It lasted like 5 minutes. It came in like at halftime. Remember, they kicked the ball off at the second half. You couldn't even see it. The rain was coming down so hard. It was raining sideways.
O came out at halftime. He was jumping up and down in the rain. Remember that one, right? I remember that football game. Yeah. It seemed like the last couple of times we've been in Tennessee, they had interim coaches both times, if I'm not mistaken.
But that was kind of the funny thing. Yeah, they had this huge picture of Butch Jones on the side of the stadium, and they had fired him that Monday before LSU played him.
And then I think I guess Dooley was out, if I'm not mistaken. I
11,
forgot who it was. The guy who was the head coach at Michigan. Brady Hoke was the interim coach the last time that LSU played up there. And then I remember as a player, we went up there in 1988, and they were 0-2. Yeah. And there was some guy sitting on the billboard who wasn't coming down until they won. Right. And we blew the doors off. It was 34-9 that game.
I'm glad you remember that. Yeah. I say things like that, and people are like, God, get a life. How can you remember that? But, yeah, it was a guy who was up on the water tower or something. He wasn't going to come down until they won.
He wasn't going to come down. That was Johnny Majors. I remember they lost to Steve Spurrier and Duke the week before.
They played
before
you guys.
He went to Florida. That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I remember it was one of those 11 a.m. starts. It was that turf, and Tommy Hodson playing pitch and catch to Alvin Lee and Tony Moss. And
Alvin Lee had a record day. Alvin's coming in this weekend. I just talked to Alvin last week.
Okay.
But yeah, I remember that. And Eric Hill hit Reggie Cobb so hard. Right? He absolutely knocked him out of the football game. Reggie Cobb was a big back. Eric Hill's a grown man. Still is a grown man.
Yeah. And that's when y'all wearing their shoulder pads that make these guys look even bigger than what they were.
Neck rolls.
Yeah. Eric Hill, Hodson was here the other day, Tommy Hodson. We were telling stories that there were these tales of Eric Hill whipping like 5 guys at one time, you know. And,
I didn't want to mess with Eric Hill. Did not.
Your time at LSU, you just real quick, you're from New Orleans.
Right.
You started at Purdue.
Well, yeah, LSU didn't offer me. Went to Purdue, signed at Purdue. We went 3-8. I was the same recruiting class with Jeff George, and it was Leon Burnett's last year, so they let go of Leon. He had gone 5-6 a year before with Jim Everett as a quarterback.
Oh, how about that?
And it was a Purdue team had some players. They had obviously Rod Woodson went to the Hall of Fame. Chris Dishman was a cornerback, played for the Oilers. Fred Strickland, was a linebacker, played in the league for 10 years, and his running mate and the captain of the defense was a guy named Kevin Sumlin.
How about that?
Wound up obviously doing pretty good as a coach there for a while, and a lot of good players on the team, but just it was 3-8, and they fired the coach, and I was going to go. I had decent grades. I was going to Cornell. And
No way. You would be an Ivy League guy?
I was young. I was a young kid. Like I was only 16 as a senior. And so I'd applied and done all that stuff, and then I had a good senior year and got some offers, but had good grades. And then Darrell Mathern, God bless him, he was down in Lutcher, a backup quarterback in the 58 team, and heard he's not doing great, so prayers for the Mathern family. But talked to some people and said, why don't you come up to LSU? I had a good all-star game. They said, might have made a mistake, blah, blah, blah. And went and talked to him. And Mike Archer was the coach. He said, look, got a chance to walk on here. It was late in the summer. And, if you earn a spot, you play special teams. So I played special teams all 3 years. And my senior year, he gave me a scholarship. And so it was good. And it was fun to come back home and play in front of family and friends. I always think about, had I gone to freeze my, ass off in Ithaca, New York, what would that have happened? Because it was cold when I went up there, and I went to go visit a place in January. It was really cold. It's like an hour and a half south of Syracuse, and for somebody from New Orleans, I don't know how that culture would have fit.
That could have been Gordy Rush on Cornell. What's Cornell's mascot?
Big Red.
Big
Bears,
Red.
Big Red.
Taking on the Yale Bulldogs.
Yale, Dartmouth, baby.
Yeah.
In front of
2,000 or 3,000 fans.
3,000 people. Go to the Yale Bowl in front of 6,000 people versus, look, to come here, the 88 team won the SEC championship, and to And I think more importantly, when recruits talk to me, what I learned to stay home and play in front of family and friends, and the network that you build by staying here, it's priceless.
So you earned a scholarship in 90?
90 last year.
Okay. So I remember back when they had this Tiger Vision stuff, it was Mike Archer's last game against Tulane. He had been let go. Was he let go
before Mississippi State?
Before Mississippi State. So he coached two last games. So y'all beat Mississippi State, and then I think there was a goal line
lost
stand.
to Mississippi State up in Jackson. So we lost that. We went 5-6. So we lost the 2 games.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. That's right. So
no, I'm sorry. We beat Tulane.
Tulane was the last game of the year.
We beat Tulane the last game. So we lost to Mississippi State.
Yeah, that's right.
And then, I think it was before Mississippi State was when.
Well, Tulane was the regular season finale, and the defense had a goal line stand. LSU won 16-13.
Okay.
And you carried Archer off the field. It was his last game. And I remember, back then, the way news traveled before the Tulane game, I remember something like I hear my dad say, I hear they fired the coach. And so you put it on ESPN Sports Center, and it was the lead story.
Yeah.
Dale Brown, I think, it's a travesty what's happened. The media has perpetuated this, And Archer was teary-eyed, We leave here with our heads held high. And my dad said, poor guy. These days when you get fired, no one says poor guy.
No.
Not when you're walking away with millions of dollars.
Well, I remember news broke while we were at practice. And so the press conference was the next day, and so Coach had to take us in and tell us somebody from was a local media member, I'll keep their name out, but was running a story that they learned that they had hired a search committee and looking for a replacement. And so he told us, and we got half the story. So that was tough as a kid to see that and find out that way.
Yeah.
Now you just look at your phone; it's breaking somewhere online or so.
Well, and then, like you said, you get there and you have the earthquake game in '88.
Yep.
You win the SEC. That was Auburn's only loss that year, right? That was the only game they lost.
7-6, yeah. I mean, Auburn played Florida State. We were co-SEC champions.
Yeah.
We played Syracuse in Tampa, and they played Florida State.
Yeah.
And Dion, they played primetime down in the Sugar Bowl.
Yeah.
In that game. That was a great Auburn team.
Well, I remember being bummed as an LSU fan because it's like, well, you beat these guys head-to-head. Why are they going to Sugar Bowl instead of LSU?
Back then, the Sugar Bowl didn't want LSU because they wouldn't stay for the week.
Hotels
right,
and money.
The hotels and all that. Now, obviously, it's different now. But, 10 years ago, the LSU traveled, and so the Sugar Bowl would take LSU when they were hot. But back then, they would rather bring somebody in because they'd get the hotel stays.
Right. Yeah, well, I think LSU didn't play in the Sugar Bowl. Let's see. It was at the end of '86, Orange Sparkers. Yes. And then they didn't go back until 2001.
That's right.
Rohan
the Illinois game.
Josh Reed and all that. All right, well, we could go down memory lane a long time, but Gordy told me not to do that. But let's start in the present.
Yep.
So I want to tip my cap to Doug Morrow.
Yes.
So you know Doug a lot better than I do, but I've spent my fair share of time with Doug. I know the last thing he wants is attention.
Right.
And people complimenting. He doesn't want that at all, but he deserves it. And certainly when I think of I've always described him as LSU football gentleman.
Yes.
He's a big man, but he's classy. He played there. He's a great member of history. He's a great vessel of history. And he was up in that booth for many years with Jim Hawthorne and Chris Blair and on Tiger Vision and other broadcasts. So
great memories of Doug, right? And, I go back to when I transferred in, Kevin Ford was their spotter or did the radio host, and he would travel at times. And so, I became familiar with Jim and Doug and a lot of great conversations with him. And, we used to get up when he was doing the color on the road. I'm an early riser. We'd always eat breakfast, and we would talk about the game and X's and O's and things like that. And, I enjoyed all my time with Doug. So certainly, hopefully, I'm sure that LSU will recognize him in due time. And I know you know him as well as I do. He's not one for that. And but, to experience Jim and Doug and have all those years were really fun.
So Doug has done the color for years.
Right.
Jim and then Chris play-by-play, and then Doug would kind of recap what he just saw and point out some things. And you've been down the sideline.
Right.
And so now Jacob Hester moves into Doug's spot. Mm-hmm. You stay in the same place there. So Jacob, obviously one of the more popular players in LSU history, 2007 national champion, and a young guy. Did he just turn 40, something like that?
He's younger than I am, so yes. Yeah, I think he's about 40.
Yeah.
He does a great job. And, obviously I've known Jacob for a while, and, we've worked on projects together, and then obviously, we're working together across the street. He does a great job. And so I've enjoyed that. I think he does a good job. Hopefully he'll do it a long time.
Football guys, too. You shake Jacob's hand, and it's like this huge hands.
Yes. My middle son has huge hands. And to hear those two when they shake hands, like, two bear paws just connected. So, yeah.
It's a new earthquake, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
What's it like when you're down there on the field? Because you've done it for how many?
This is 14 or 15? Since 2010, 2011, 15 maybe?
So you were a player, obviously, so that was your perspective. I know as a reporter, when I'm up high, you can see, that guy's wide open, or, there's a huge hole, or this and that. When you're down the field, it's just kind of this wall of humanity. You don't see those things as well.
Well, for me, I always stand in the end zone behind the goalpost. So I was a defensive back. It was most of the time, right? That's the position I played. I played receiver one year after Todd Kinchin got hurt. They moved me over there. But so I like watching things from the end zone and from the back, where you can see things develop. And that's just my vantage point. Everything from you can see coverage to see you see lineman stances, and so I always enjoy that. And then also in a lot of stadiums, it's less crowded in the end zone, right? Especially at Tiger Stadium. You got so many people that are standing on the sidelines. At Clemson, it was crazy. They had all the VIPs. So it's a better view, and so I enjoy watching from there.
One thing, too, you tell me if you pick up on this. When I'm down on the field sometimes, I can tell maybe emotions, like do they want to be here or not? I'll move away from the current team and just like 2014, I'm going to go back. LSU loses that heartbreaker to Alabama in Tiger Stadium. I think Kendall Beckwith got the fumble recovery. They should have won. Then the Vidal Alexander penalty bumps it back. Alabama wins in overtime. The next week, LSU's got to go to Arkansas.
Yeah.
Freezing cold. Arkansas is on a 17-game losing streak in the conference, and it was awful. And just being down there is kind of like, I don't think these guys want to be here tonight.
Well, you get used to the vibes, right?
Yeah.
Clemson's a special place, right? And there's stadiums that and environments you just know. And it's funny you mentioned Arkansas, as I did do these talks in August, and everybody, what are your thoughts on the season? I talk about things, and I'm like, well, first off, Vanderbilt at 11 a.m. since we lost there in 1990. Nobody really ever gets excited to play in Vanderbilt, even though they're much better, and they beat Alabama. It's at 11 a.m., and it's a funky, different stadium, right? Yeah. I mean, you're just looking around. It's not like anything else that you play in. And then LSU will finish at Oklahoma. And I've made the point to, many people, don't sleep on Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's a blue blood. They went 6-6. Yeah, they got a really hard schedule. Yeah, they lost a lot of people, but they have $18 million, and they went and paid people to come in there. But, LSU usually hadn't played well in cold weather. And I can't tell you how many times that, we were in Arkansas, and we come out like we're playing in Green Bay. I mean, people full bodysuits, and here comes the Arkansas guys, and they've got cutoff T-shirts, sleeveless, and shorts. Yeah. You know, it's 40 degrees, and they're excited it's 40 degrees, and so you know, that's a tough spot. I think the end of the season, I don't know what Arkansas is going to look like. But you're going to have to play up there, and it's going to be cold.
Yeah, Arkansas has always been tough because you go up there and you watch the local TV and local sports, and they'll be talking about, this is the biggest home game of the year. You know, this is our arch rival, LSU. And LSU, from their end, no disrespect, has never been able to counter that.
All of it. So every time, you know, you're excited. You know, LSU, they're excited. They win the game, and the kids go rush to get the trophy, and it takes 7 people to pick up the trophy.
It's a big trophy.
I mean, you know, it's a great idea, the boot. Whoever made the boot, it was entirely too big and just not an efficient trophy. I mean, people are lobbying, and kids throwing their back out trying to get the boot.
There's an attorney somewhere sitting waiting for somebody to get hurt, you know, dropping that thing or picking it up.
I'm the boot attorney. Call on me. Yeah, absolutely.
It was usually the guys who didn't play that ran and picked it up.
If I was the head coach, look, if we win, here's the designate boot guys, right? We're going to have these boot guys, and I don't have to worry about them throwing out back. No linemen. Don't want any linemen.
In 19, the Dream Team season, I think they left the Magnolia Trophy. That's the Ole Miss one.
Right.
They left that one on the field. They didn't even pick it up. And I think the boot also just stayed out there.
It was cold, and there was like 200 points scored. It was like the longest game ever. I mean, the little quarterback with
Rice
3 names.
Plumlee.
Yeah, John Rice Plumlee ran for 6,000 yards in that game, and it was 60-50, and it was just the longest game. It was so cold, everybody wanted to go home because the outcome of the game was never in doubt. And the best thing about the Magnolia Trophy, and it's a right-sized trophy, nice trophy, but the Magnolia actually comes out.
Yeah, the little.
So I can't tell you how many times the little white flowers falling out. Put the Magnolia in.
Kind of sound like the Hawthorne for a second. It was the longest game, Bob. It just went on and on. Yeah, so trophies in college football. So I guess work back to the present here. Braylon Moore, how about that for a right turn? So, you know, DJ Chester, young kid, maybe he was a little in over his head last year trying to be the center. He's going to be a good player. So they go out to Virginia Tech. They get this veteran guy to handle it. Todd McClure sitting right there. We had him last week.
I saw him.
We have a central.
I saw he dressed up for the show. I gave him. I got on him a little bit. I mean, it was great that he wore a T-shirt.
T-shirt and a hat.
Yep. Shocker.
Showed up, and you know, just real quick, you know, it's funny. That guy plays 14 years in the NFL.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to pick a fight with him. But you look at him, and you look at like Brad Davis, who was a starter on a national championship team with Oklahoma early 2000, 2001, which is 25 years ago, whatever. But Brad Davis is out there, and these guys tower over him. I mean, they are like trees.
Right.
They're 6'7", 6'8". It's like, okay, duh, football players are big, but it really hits you how big these guys are when you go to practice.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, today, the size of them when they walk out. I mean, I remember first game of the season when we played Florida State down in Orlando, and that offensive line came out. I was like, God bless. I mean, these kids they look 400 pounds. You know, I think back Ruffin Rodrigue was the starting lineman on ours at 6'1", 270, and you got guys that are 6'6", 400 and look the part. I mean, just every position has grown. I mean, the size of some of these players are unbelievable.
Ruffin, bless his soul, told me that he was the only guy who felt the earthquake against Auburn because he was lying on the ground.
Okay.
Like got bowled over by Tracy Rocker. And like Hodson is that far away from getting sacked, and that's it.
Funny story. Yeah, they ran a twist on that play, and Ruffin. I mean, Tommy got caught, but they ran that play on first down, came back the same play on fourth down because it was open. I think that Eddie had dropped it, and Ruffin whiffed on the twist. And so yeah, I've heard that story.
Tommy says Ruffin never let the facts get in the way of a good story.
No. I mean, he was quoted twice in that season by USA Today when they had the quote of the season. I know he said that we dominated Miami after we lost 44-3, and the other one he said Tulane is the Columbia of the South. You know, I mean, it was hard to make the quote of the day for any college player, much less twice. So Ruffin made it.
We miss Ruffin, guy who truly loved LSU football and ran Rufino's for years. Great restaurant, still is, all that. So Braylon Moore at center now. We don't know how long he's out, right? It's
my guess, if he's not ready to go this week, and that I think I don't know for sure. I think he's probably doubtful for this week. If he's not ready for this week, then the goal is you get him back for Ole Miss, right? We're not rushing him back to play Southeastern.
Right.
Chadez is a little bit longer. And I heard what you heard yesterday. Sprained knee. I mean, A&M maybe at the best, and he's got to be 100%. If not, then you want that open week, and then you look at Alabama and kind of circle that. And that's just my non-doctor, non-trainer opinion of all that stuff. But, I feared the both of them when you saw them happen, and I saw the replays. It feared much worse than that. So I think LSU was lucky, and hopefully they'll be back soon.
Tradez, a special talent, God-given ability.
Yes.
Picks up football his junior year at East Feliciana. I think he told me in my first game, I go out, catch 2 touchdowns, and Houston calls the next day with a scholarship offer. First game he ever played. And the basketball thing, I don't think it's going to work out, but we saw that flash when he stole the ball in Alabama last year and threw it on him. People just can't do that like he can.
I think it's so hard to play 2 sports now. It just is. And if he stays healthy, sky's the limit in the NFL. You
can do the baseball, football thing.
Yes.
Because there's the gap.
Yes.
And the body change. You don't have to change the body as much.
That's a big part, right? I mean, especially for what he needs to do. Obviously, he's versatile enough, but I think he's got more of an upside if he's able to, get a little bit bigger, put his hand in the ground, and be able to play in some of those sets. And you don't have to use him as a wing back or flex him out. The more you can do, like I think Bauer Sharp. I think he has a future on Sunday because he does a lot of things. He can block in line. He can go catch a football down the field, and good-looking player.
Yeah, and it seems like a great kid the time we've interviewed him. I mean, that was a tough luck fumble, that Clemson game when he gets hit. It barely just kind of wedges out, and they called it a fumble, so they had to stick to it after the replay. And then the other offensive weapons out there, it comes back to the running game. Caden Durham I think he's got 30 carries for like 100 yards at the first 2 games. Your biggest running plays have gone to Xavion Thomas, and then Harlem Berry broke the long run late, so maybe we'll see a little more of Harlem. But it's about blocking too.
I think that's the biggest question. Yeah. And I just watched the film. If I'm the defense coordinator for Florida, and therefore, if Louisiana Tech does not have to bring extra people in the box, and I can handle the run and play coverage and keep all of these weapons in front of me and drop 8 and do the things that Louisiana Tech did, if I can have that sort of success, that's going to be, I think, the game plan that people are going to go with. So LSU's got to do a better job when they get numbers and be able to run on those downs into it. Last year, everybody just came up in the line of scrimmage because LSU didn't have that sort of speed at wide receiver. So they've got a lot of they were outnumbered up on the front, and that's some of the struggles that they had. They don't have that problem. Everybody knows about how good LSU's wide receivers are and the tight ends, and now we've seen 2 defenses that are kind of built for bringing pressure that did not bring pressure. Tom Allen at Penn State brought a lot of pressure. He played a lot of too high and backed up and kept LSU's receivers in front of him. And then, Texas Tech, that 335, what I remember about it, everybody that was in the Mike Leach air raid era, that was the defense they played, and the thought was, look, 2 things are going to happen. We're going to turn you over, or you're going to score really quick, but we're going to get in a shootout. Well, that was kind of unconventional to me, 3-3-5. They looked different. They played a lot more coverage than I expected.
Well, and a lot of people are saying, where's Chris Hilton?
Yeah.
It is up and down with Chris Hilton. At the end of last year he's up, and now I don't think he's down. It's just, like you said, they're not letting LSU run past them first two games.
I think some of it, and credit Berrien Brown, arguably was the best receiver coming out of camp.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think the same way that you've seen, P.J. Woodland and Pickett have jumped ahead of Ashton Stamps, I just think those guys have had better camps.
Yeah.
Now, I still think Chris Hilton's going to play a role here at some point, and he can stretch the football field. But, when people are dropping 8, what Chris Hilton does is really well is beat man coverage.
Yeah. A few more things with you. Appreciate your time.
Sure.
Nick Anderson, they got him involved this past week. Shorter passes, but he's the bigger, more of a Michael Clayton type, bigger body. And they got him in the end zone, called a touchdown.
Look, I like Nick Anderson. He's got an NFL-type body. He can run. He had a great freshman year at Oklahoma. He had 10 touchdown passes, and then Oklahoma obviously was dysfunctional. Been in and out of practice, missed some practice time. He's healthy now. I just think it's a matter of time to see what he can do.
Yeah. All right, this game with Florida this weekend. Billy Napier, as I've said, pulled himself back from the cliff late last year.
Yep. Started
with the LSU win, which kind of a thing we've talked about after Louisiana Tech. Kicked too many field goals in Gainesville, didn't score touchdowns. Yep. And I think they sacked Nussmeier 6 times last year in the Swamp. They really got after him. Of course, the roster's changed so much. I haven't really even looked to see who's back and who's not for Florida, but certainly they got after Nussmeier. Back to Napier, he's 13th in the country. Things are looking good, and he loses to South Florida, and now they're calling for his head again. So.
Yeah, it's been a long road over there at Florida. Look, I think the toughest thing that Florida has is a schedule in front of them right now.
Yeah.
You and I get a chance to look at that crystal ball. I mean, they go to Miami, they get Texas and Gainesville, at Texas A&M, Mississippi State, which isn't easy now, right? And then after that, they go to Georgia. They still have Tennessee and Florida State left. I mean, it's unbelievable.
They've moved it off the campuses now? Is that the Georgia game?
I think so.
They're not no more Jacksonville. I'm trying to remember that.
I thought they went back to the campuses with that.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
either way.
What a ridiculous schedule.
Yeah.
And now they lost their best edge rusher. He went down. He broke his ankle. And then you have the defensive tackle. I don't know what the discipline's going to be. He got ejected from the game for spitting. And so, I mean, the strength of this defense was that they were returning 5 of their front 7 and their top 4 sack guys, and now one's out for the year and one's going to be out for a period of time in this football game. And then you're still young at quarterback. I really like DJ Langway. He's all the rumors up there, he had been hurt off season and gone through some things and missed some time in spring. And, looking a little bit at the film, I don't know that he's 100% right now. He's amazing talent coming out of high school over in Woodlands, Texans area. He was phenomenal. Between he and then Jaden Baugh, the tailback that ran Rushaw, a good 1-2 punch there, and they were just out of sync. I mean, just like LSU, they dominated time of possession, 11 minutes over South Florida. They won the yardage tape. They were just sloppy and made mistakes and were inconsistent.
Yeah, kicked a lot of field goals.
Yes.
As you told me before, they snapped it over the punter's head for a safety. And, Lagway, a lot of pressure on him to be the hot shot, and I think he threw 1 touchdown. They only got in the end zone once last week.
Yeah, had an interception, bad interception as well, and just I mean, didn't look comfortable, ran the ball in times, and he's still he's still a young quarterback. I mean, you look at Lagway, we talk about Reed at Texas A&M, some of those young freshmen that had breakout games. You still need to play a year or 2 in this league before I think you're really comfortable.
Yeah, and Napier, I've met him a few times. I like the guy. He's in a pressure cooker, but he doesn't seem like he's a guy. I've never seen him really kind of like blow up or blame somebody or be a jerk. I mean, he seems to be a good guy, but is it going to work or not? We'll see.
Look,
but how many coaches have they gone through since Urban Meyer? Right?
I mean, Mullen was there, and they ran
McElwain,
off Don. They had success with that. McElwain. Look, my memories are that Florida, when they were the permanent for us.
Back to Joe Oliva and Les Miles. We don't want to play this game, right?
I mean, I've never seen the Swamp so quiet. Until really they brought the Tom Petty tribute in, and it got a little bit more excited in there. But there was a run for about 5, 6, 7 years where, it's just weird to see Florida, not where Florida's used to be. I think the challenge in this conference is going to be you got 8 or 9 blue buds, right, that expect to be in the college football playoff each and every year. LSU's one of them. And the question is, do you want to move on from a coach and pay that big buyout, right, in a day and age where you're still going to have to go get an extra $10 million from somebody or another revenue source to make your roster share, your rev share number, right? And do you want to do that and then run the risk of breaking up whatever continuity you have and do something like what Auburn did? Because Auburn hadn't been the same since they let Gus Malzahn go, right? And, I mean, you could say the same thing about Florida. And, of course, Urban left for other reasons. But, I mean, that's the danger of moving on from somebody's got to lose, right? Only 4 teams from the SEC, 4 of that 8 or 9 are going to make it to the college football playoff. Last year it was 3. And it's even harder to go 10-2 than it was 5 years ago. So somebody's not making it, and how are you going to react to it?
Yeah, well, I think Matt Moscona, your guy, said something a year ago. They all think they're making it.
Oh, sure.
If you're one of those blue bloods like you talk about, we're going 10-2.
Well, I spend a lot of time. I'll go to Auburn twice a year. Auburn has the same mentality as LSU fans. Think about where Auburn's been the last 5 or 6 years. I mean, I couldn't even tell you what bowl games they've been in the last couple of years, right? I mean, they haven't been
a losing year last year, I think.
I don't recall, what they between, I don't even remember the coach they brought from Boise now that we're talking about it. And now since they've had Hugh Freeze, I mean, they've been out of the conversation. This is Auburn that has great alumni base. They've got as much money, maybe not A&M money. They got plenty of money. This is a blue blood program, right? That hadn't been close. Well, they don't want to stay there, right? I mean, it's going to be a constant conversation. It's just going to be that much harder for those blue bloods. And now you add Oklahoma and Texas to it. And yes, Oklahoma, who went 6-6, they're not staying 6-6 forever.
Right. Yeah. Auburn was national champs in 2010 with Cam Newton. That's already been 15 years ago. And then they played for it again in 13, right?
That's right.
They lost to
Oregon.
Yeah. So, I mean, they've made 2 national titles in relatively not too long ago. But, the Yellowwood money, huh?
The Yellowwood. That's right.
That guy. So, yeah, they all expect to make it. And so maybe we can end here. Brian Kelly, I sense something different from him this year. Like, there is a vibe that we got to get in this year. Like, we've put the money in the roster. We got to make a playoff.
It took Nick Saban, I think, saying it on game day week 1 for it really to resonate with me, how to describe this team. He said LSU's got 18 transfers that have 6 or more starts from Power 4 conferences. And he said, what does that look like? And I was like, by myself in my hotel room in Greenville, like, I know. We're pretty good. And I think that's the point. I think Brian Kelly knows how good this roster is, right? I mean, this is a really good roster. You have great leadership. You have a veteran quarterback that obviously has first-round grades, and this is a team that should make the college football playoff. And I think that's the confidence I think that he's putting out there. And I think he's a fantastic coach. I think the way he runs his program, game management, and all the above. I think that he's figured out the recruiting. About you need some local flavor to win the SEC battles, right? And then obviously Austin Thomas and everybody have done an incredible job figuring out this new age of rev share and the transfer portal and all the above. And so you've got total alignment here. And I like what I see out there. And I think Coach Kelly knows that the hand of cards that he has. And that's what we've seen out there at practice. This is a top shelf defense. And you have a lot of weapons on offense, and you just got to hone them together a little bit.
Yeah, and Jordan Gilbert's improved back there.
Yes, he's healthy.
Yeah, he's improved. But then the guys they added,
that's
seems to be what gets brought up first. The safety play is night and day.
They're physical. They can cover. They get lined up. Let's start there. I mean, you go back to year 1 and 2 when they were piecemealing that thing. Delane is a guy that can play press coverage. That's played a lot of football. You got a lot of kids played a lot of football. And I think, Bernard Gooden has been the guy that I've explained when people have asked me about this defense. Here's a guy that was 6'1", 270, was probably looked over by all the big top Power 5 conferences because he was undersized. Has played well, but played at the Raymond James Stadium in front of 20,000 fans for South Florida in that conference, not to kill on the American and not trying to get the Tulane people to hate me. And he gets a chance to come play in the SEC, play for a national championship, get paid to do it with the chance to get paid on Sunday. That's the sort of maturity and mentality that's different. LSU the last couple of years have been so young. I mean, it started Bro and McKinley and all these young guys. I mean, you've got grown men that are mature that really value this opportunity.
And Jack Pyburn,
yes.
No coincidence, they're using him to promote the game this weekend. It's the gold game, wear gold and all that. He's a guy on the billboard. I was thinking about this too, Gordy. Like in your time, it was basically impossible. I didn't say impossible, but you never played against a guy that used to be on your team.
No. That
didn't happen. And now it's almost like you want to ask the question, what do you think Pyburn's going to be emotional playing against Florida? He might, because I think it seems like he's a little salty about whatever happened there. I don't know. But now it's just such a regular thing, you almost kind of think it's not a big deal to him anymore.
No, it's crazy. No, I mean, back then you had to sit. I had to sit when I transferred. You were ineligible. And so there was no playing right away unless you went down to 1AA. Yeah. Was the rule there. And, yeah, it is common that you see people. I mean, Kobe Fields, could play against Louisiana Tech. This was his second stop, I think, after he initially left. And it is what it is. I'm sure it'll be emotional for Pyburn, especially, after last year. And I think a lot of people forget about it. It's a revenge game.
Yeah.
It's a revenge game. I mean, all the to me, all the intangibles are in LSU's favor this week.
Pyborn looks like an Avenger or
Yes.
like some superhero or something. He looks like out of a cartoon book or
He's
something.
got the long hair. He's got the Thor look working for him. No
Got
question.
that jaw
Yeah.
and that all that stuff. So I'm sure he'd be dying for a sack or two this weekend.
Yes, he would.
Appreciate your time. We'll end it there. Gordy
Thank you,
Rush,
buddy.
thanks for coming by. Be sure to catch him. I used to say Eagle 98.1,
Yep.
but
LSU Sports
now,
Radio Network.
You know, phones and I mean, there's just
We're
a million ways to catch you, and you do film studies and everything. And so let's see. In the morning we got Flynn, Hester, Taylor Sharp's part of that. Alondra,
Yep.
that's the morning show. Hunt Palmer, former WAFB intern, WAFB Hall of Fame.
I did not know that. You skipped Hanny and Ott, but that's okay.
No, okay, I was out of order. I was about to say
Hanny
That's
out.
right.
That's okay.
Well,
That's
certainly,
okay.
Jimmy's going to curse me. Charlie and Jimmy, the are they like a married couple?
They
Is
are
that
a married couple.
That the way to describe that?
They are.
Live at lunch.
Yep.
Two great guys, very knowledgeable, and then Hunt, and then Moscona from 3 to 6. You pretty much built the station. He was your first kind of
He was the first.
like, okay, we're doing this, and not to just end with this, but back when I got here, 12:10 a.m. That was it. And was there what was the
It was
sports
1300
animals?
was WIBR was the first one. WIBR
Yeah.
was in Port Allen. It's I think it's still up. It's simulcasting something, and then 1210 was an iHeart property, and they broke into it. One time you had two of them going, and then there was 1210, and then once got over to Guarantee, I'd been over at Clear Channel and decided it'd be we wanted the sports to complement having the play-by-play rights because it's unique to have play-by-play on a rock station, a non-sports station.
Yeah.
So we started with Matt and just kind of went from there, and it did so well that Charlie was like, I'd really like to get involved in that. And then we put on Derek Panamsky and Jordy Collada in the mornings. Yeah, so good times.
Yeah, you've got quite an alumni there over the
Good
years.
people, no doubt.
Yeah, because when I came here, Buddy Sanji, who's great and still doing
Yes.
stuff at Scarborough, he was on 12 to 2. Then Jimmy was on 4 to 6. That was basically it.
John Fine at one point
John
did Morning
Fine.
Drive. He's doing Denham Springs football, the Yellow Jackets. Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, to put this all sports station on, it was a big move. It was a big thing to do.
It was back then to do that. It took a little bit of investment, and it's been a good payoff. But I think that just like you guys doing what you're doing here, for media you've got to be really strong locally. Right, and you do a great job, and your staff does. John Eads does a great job. I see John Eads everywhere.
Yeah, I think there's 10 of John
what?
Eads.
I mean, my kids were like running at Central Wildcat Stadium at 9 o'clock, and the lights are off. There's John Eads. So compliments to John. He does a great job. But you've got to serve the community. You have to do local, and you guys do a great job of that.
Yeah, we've cloned John. There's actually 10 of them out there. He's done a great job, and Kevin does a great job with Southern and the Saints and all that. So I'm lucky to have those guys here. And as you know, more and more people are watching you or listening on stream. And the traditional, hey, I watch Dan Rather at 5:30 and then the local news at 6 on my TV. Those things are it's changed.
Yeah, you've got to be where people consuming it, right? And there's still people that watch the 6, the 5, 6, and 10, and there are people that watch it on Twitter. You got to be wherever they're watching.
Right. Then they want you to change it. Then you upset those people. This is the way it's always been. Why you change it?
What is this? God, my mom, God bless her. She died in 2023, and she said, "Gaudy, before you leave, come plug in my radio." She still had the transistor radio, and so I kept that radio after she passed. But I mean, it's she grew up with Crest toothpaste. She always used Crest toothpaste.
Right. Well, there is something still kind of, I don't know if romantic is the right word, but listening to a sporting event on a crackling radio where you don't quite know what's happening, but you do we did that a lot. When a lot of LSU football games were not on TV, especially in the Curly days.
That's right.
Listen to Jim and Doug, and Gordy. So we'll let you go. Gordy Rush here, and I'm Jacques Doucet. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you later.